The year was 2157. Humanity had spread beyond Earth, building homes on Mars and a research station on Europa. The stars no longer seemed so far away. Captain Daniel Wright stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, Earth's first true interstellar vessel. The ship hummed with power as it moved through the darkness of deep space. Daniel was tall with short brown hair and eyes that had seen 45 years of life. He watched the main screen with quiet focus. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange," said Communications Officer Sofia Martinez. Her fingers moved quickly across her control panel. "It's not one of ours." Daniel walked to her station. "What kind of signal?" "I've never seen anything like it," Sofia said. She was 32 with dark hair pulled back in a neat bun. "It's definitely artificial, but the pattern is alien." The word hung in the air. Humanity had searched for signs of intelligent life beyond Earth for centuries. They had found microbes on Mars and simple sea creatures beneath Europa's ice, but never intelligent life. "Can you pinpoint the source?" Daniel asked. "Yes, sir. It's coming from the Aldebaran system, about 12 light years from here." Daniel nodded. "Alert Earth Command. Tell them we're investigating a possible first contact situation." The next 6 hours were tense. The crew prepared for anything as they approached the signal source. Science Officer Peter Kelly worked on decoding the message while Security Chief Grace Williams kept the ship at high alert. "Sir, I think we've got it," Peter said finally. His face was pale. It's a distress call." Daniel leaned forward. "You mean you've translated it?" "Partially. The signal contains mathematical sequences that helped create a translation key. Whoever sent this wanted to make sure it could be understood." Peter looked up at the captain. "Sir, they're asking for help. They're being attacked." The message played on the main screen. At first it showed only static, then it cleared to reveal a humanoid figure. The alien had pale blue skin, large eyes, and no visible hair. When it spoke, the ship's computer provided a rough translation. "To any spacefaring civilization who receives this message, we are the Aldarians. Our worlds have been invaded by the Krell Dominion, a species that conquers and destroys all in their path. Our people are peaceful. We cannot fight them. Millions have already died. We beg for assistance. We have monitored your transmissions. We believe you may be able to help us. Please, we have little time left." The bridge was silent. Daniel felt the weight of history on his shoulders. "How old is this message?" he asked. "Based on the signal degradation." "About 8 months," Peter replied. Daniel made his decision. "Set course for the coordinates embedded in the message. Maximum speed." 3 days later, the UES Defiance arrived at a small moon orbiting a gas giant. The moon was hidden in the planet's radiation shadow, making it difficult to detect from a distance. As they entered orbit, they received a new transmission. The same blue-skinned alien appeared, but now they could see he wore simple white clothing. "Unknown vessel, this is Elder Zivron of the Aldarian Remnant. Please identify yourself." Daniel stepped forward. "This is Captain Daniel Wright of the United Earth Ship Defiance. We received your distress call." The alien's large eyes widened. You actually came." His voice broke with emotion. "We had almost lost hope." The Defiance landed on the moon's surface near a hidden settlement. Daniel led a team including Sophia, Peter, and Grace to meet the Aldarians. The air was breathable but thin, tasting slightly sweet. Elder Zivron met them outside a structure built into the side of a mountain. He was tall and thin, standing about 7 feet high. Behind him stood a small group of Aldarians, watching the humans with cautious hope. "Thank you for coming," Zivron said with a small bow. "Please follow me." Inside, the humans saw a civilization on the brink of extinction. What had once been millions was now reduced to less than 100,000 refugees hidden on this remote moon. They lived in fear, using minimal technology to avoid detection. In a central chamber, Zivron showed them recordings of the Krell attacks. The humans watched in horror as beautiful cities were reduced to ash. The Krell ships were massive, dark shapes that blotted out the sun. Their soldiers were reptilian, heavily armored, and merciless. The Krell Dominion has conquered 12 systems before ours, Zivran explained. They take what they want and destroy everything else. We tried to communicate, to reason with them. They saw it as weakness. Why contact Earth? Daniel asked. We're not as advanced as you are. Zivran's expression was solemn. Because of your history. He activated a holographic display showing scenes from human history. Ancient battles, world wars, modern conflicts. We have studied many species, Zivran continued. Most either fight like the Krell or are peaceful like us. But humans, you, are unique. You fight fiercely to protect what you love, yet you value peace. You develop weapons, yet you create art. You know war, yet you strive for harmony. Sophia stepped forward. You want us to fight your war? We want you to teach us how to survive, Zivran corrected. And yes, we hope you will help us fight. Not just for us, but for yourselves as well. The Krell consume everything in their path. They've already detected signals from your solar system. They will come for Earth eventually. Daniel felt a chill run down his spine. How long do we have? The Krell are methodical. They would reach your system in perhaps 20 of your years, but they will find us much sooner. We estimate 3 months before they discover this sanctuary. That night, Daniel sent an encrypted message to Earth explaining everything they had learned. The response came 12 hours later from Military Director Catherine Powell. Bring Aldarian representatives to Earth immediately. Security Council convening. This is now humanity's top priority. As the Defiance prepared to leave, Elder Zivran and 2 other Aldarians joined them for the journey to Earth. Standing on the bridge, watching the small moon fade from view, Zivran spoke quietly to Daniel. Will your people really help us? Daniel thought about human history, about all the wars they had fought among themselves, and about how they had finally united to reach for the stars. Elder Zivran, there's something you should understand about humans. We argue, we fight, we disagree on almost everything, but when faced with a common threat, especially one that targets the innocent, we stand together. He looked the alien in the eyes. The Krell have never faced humans before. They have no idea what they're about to unleash. As the Defiance accelerated toward Earth, Daniel knew humanity was about to change forever. They were about to enter their first interstellar war. And humanity would not fight merely to defend. They would fight to win, completely and absolutely. The Krell had started this, but humanity would finish it. The UES Defiance returned to Earth with the Aldarian delegates aboard. News of first contact spread quickly. Crowds gathered outside the United Nations headquarters in New York as world leaders met to discuss humanity's response to the Krell threat. Inside the Grand Meeting Hall, Elder Zivran stood before representatives from every nation on Earth. His blue skin and tall frame made him look out of place among the humans, but he spoke with dignity. The Krell destroyed our 5 worlds in less than a year, Zivran said. They take what they want and kill anyone who resists. We tried peace. We tried surrender. Nothing worked. Military Director Catherine Powell stood next. She was a stern woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. The Krell represent an existential threat not just to the Aldarians but to Earth as well. They've already detected our radio signals. It's not a matter of if they'll come here, but when. For 3 days the HFY Council debated. Some wanted to stay out of an alien war. Others argued that helping the Aldarians was not just right, but necessary for humanity's survival. On the 4th day, the vote was unanimous. Earth would stand with the Aldarians. Alan Carter, a military historian with thick glasses and a quiet voice, led a team studying human warfare throughout history. He met with Zivran and other Aldarians to understand their technology and the Krell's tactics. The Krell always followed the same pattern, Alan explained during a briefing with military leaders. They arrive at a new system, establish orbital dominance, then land-ground forces. They've never faced an enemy that fights back in unpredictable ways. And that's our advantage, said General Maria Diaz. She pointed to a map of known Krell territory. The Krell expect surrender or simple resistance. They've never experienced human warfare. Maria was 48 years old and had served in conflicts around the world. Now she would lead humanity's first interstellar combat operation. We don't just fight on front lines, she explained to Zivran. We use guerrilla tactics, psychological warfare, and deception. We attack supply lines and communication. We adapt when plans fail. Zivran looked troubled. Your history is filled with such violence. Does it not disturb you? Maria's expression softened. War is always terrible. We don't glorify it. But sometimes fighting is necessary to protect those who cannot protect themselves. All across Earth, factories shifted to war production. The Aldarians shared their advanced technology, helping humans improve their ships and weapons beyond what would have taken decades to develop alone. At NASA's main facility, engineer Kyle Bennett led a team converting civilian ships for military use. Kyle was 35 with red hair and a constant look of determination. His hands were always stained with grease as he worked day and night. The Aldarian shields will hold against Krell weapons for about 3 minutes, Kyle explained to Captain Daniel Wright as they walked through a hangar filled with ships being modified. That's 3 minutes longer than we had before. Daniel nodded. Every advantage helps. Meanwhile, Dr. Olivia Franklin worked in a secure laboratory studying Krell biology based on samples the Aldarians had collected. She was young, just 29, but brilliant. Her lab coat was always perfectly clean, unlike Kyle's work clothes. The Krell are vulnerable to certain compounds that don't affect humans or Aldarians, she told a group of scientists. We can use this to develop non-lethal options. Alongside our weapons, Commander Christopher Adams established a training base in the Arizona desert, where soldiers from around the world learned to use the new technology. Chris was tall and muscular with a booming voice that carried across the training field. Forget everything you know about conventional warfare, he shouted to the first group of recruits. The Krell have numbers and experience. We have surprise and adaptability. The soldiers trained with Aldarian weapons and practiced new tactics. Among them was Lieutenant Samantha Reed, a former Special Forces operator who quickly showed talent for the new technology. The Krell have never seen anything like our special operations teams, Samantha said during a strategy meeting. She had short blonde hair and moved with quiet confidence. We can infiltrate their command structures instead of fighting their armies head-on. 3 months after the Aldarians arrived on Earth, the first human battle fleet was ready. 5 large warships and 20 smaller vessels gathered in Earth orbit. The largest ship, the UES Vengeance, would serve as the fleet's flagship. The night before deployment, Daniel visited the Aldarian embassy established in what had once been a museum. He found Zivran standing alone, looking at a painting of Earth's night sky. Are you ready? Daniel asked. Zivran turned. My people were never warriors. For us to ask others to fight our battle, he paused. It feels wrong. You're not asking us to fight your battle, Daniel said. This became our battle the moment the Krell set their sights on Earth. We're in this together now. Just then, an aide rushed into the room. His face was pale. Captain, right? Elder Zivran, you need to come quickly, he said. Our deep space monitoring stations just picked up multiple Krell ships entering the Tau Ceti system. Daniel felt his blood run cold. Tau Ceti was only 12 light-years from Earth, much closer than they had expected the Krell to be. How many ships? He asked. At least 30, sir. And they're not just passing through. They're establishing an outpost. Daniel and Zivran hurried to the emergency command center beneath the Pentagon. General Diaz and the Joint Chiefs were already reviewing the data when they arrived. The Krell are moving faster than we anticipated, Maria said grimly. Intelligence suggests they've accelerated their expansion after losing track of the Aldarian refugees. Military Director Powell looked at the assembled leaders. We need to change our plans. Instead of starting with a defensive operation, we need to strike first. Attack the Krell directly? Zivran asked, shocked. No species has ever successfully done that. Then we'll be the first, Powell said firmly. Operation Thunderbolt is now our only option. Daniel looked at the holographic display showing the Krell fleet. The enemy ships were massive, dwarfing Humanity's vessels, but size wasn't everything. We'll need every advantage, he said. Surprise, deception, and hitting them where they least expect it. General Diaz nodded. Captain Wright, you'll lead the first strike team. Your objective is to capture their command ship intact if possible. We need their navigation data to find the rest of their fleet. As the meeting ended, Daniel found himself standing next to Samantha Reed. Scared? She asked quietly. Daniel considered the question. Not scared. Determined. The Krell started this war thinking they found easy prey. They have no idea what humanity is capable of when pushed. The next morning, Earth's first battle fleet departed. As the ships accelerated away from Earth, a message from Military Director Powell was broadcast to every vessel. You carry with you not just the hopes of humanity, but of the Aldarians and every other species threatened by the Krell. Today we show the galaxy that when innocent people beg for help, humanity answers with overwhelming force. Good hunting. The fleet vanished into the darkness of space, heading toward humanity's first interstellar war. The human fleet moved silently through space toward the Tau Ceti system. Captain Daniel Wright stood on the bridge of the UES Vengeance, watching the stars streak past on the main screen. 5 days had passed since they left Earth. We'll reach the edge of the Tau Ceti system in 6 hours, said Navigation Officer Frank Miller. He was young, barely 30, with steady hands and calm eyes. Daniel nodded. Gather the strike team leaders for final briefing. In the ship's conference room, Daniel met with the commanders who would lead the attack. Lieutenant Samantha Reed would lead the Special Operations Team. Commander Christopher Adams would coordinate the main assault force. Captain Lisa Chen would command the smaller ships providing support. The Krell don't know we're coming, Daniel said. Their outpost is still under construction. This gives us one chance to strike before they're fully established. Samantha pointed to a holographic map showing the Krell base. My team will infiltrate their command center while the main force draws their attention. We need to capture their navigation computer intact. Remember, we've never fought the Krell before, Daniel reminded them. We have Aldarian intelligence on their tactics, but expect surprises. As the human fleet approached Tau Ceti, they shut down all non-essential systems to avoid detection. The ships drifted toward the fourth planet where the Krell had begun building their outpost. In the final hour before the attack, Daniel visited the ship's medical bay where Dr. Olivia Franklin was preparing special equipment. These should disrupt Krell communications, she said, handing him small devices. They emit a frequency that interferes with their neural patterns. Will it hurt them? Daniel asked. No, just confuse them. It's not permanent. Olivia's expression was serious. I became a doctor to save lives, not take them. But I understand why we're here. Daniel placed a hand on her shoulder. We all wish there was another way. At exactly 0300 hours Earth time, Operation Thunderbolt began. The human fleet split into 3 groups. Captain Lisa Chen's fast attack ships struck first, targeting the Krell's sensor arrays with precision missiles. Enemy sensors down, Lisa reported. They're blind. The main battle group led by the UES Vengeance moved in next, launching fighters that swarmed around the larger Krell vessels. The Krell ships were massive but slow to respond, clearly surprised by the sudden attack. On the bridge of the Vengeance, Daniel watched as the battle unfolded. Sir, the Krell are trying to form a defensive line, said Tactical Officer Gary Peterson. They weren't expecting us to attack in such small, fast groups. Keep them confused, Daniel ordered. Don't give them time to organize. Meanwhile, Samantha, Reed and her Special Forces team approached the Krell command ship in a small, stealthy vessel. They wore armor based on Aldarian technology but modified with human combat systems. Team, activate your translation devices, Samantha said. Remember, capture the navigation data, then get out. No heroics. They breached the hull of the Krell command ship and moved through dark corridors. The Krell they encountered were tall reptilian beings with armored scales and 4 arms. They moved with military precision but seemed confused by the human tactics. Samantha's team used Olivia's devices to disrupt Krell communications, turning organized resistance into chaos. Instead of facing the Krell head-on, They use smoke, sound, and deception to divide enemy forces. The command center should be one level up, said Ron Gregory, Samantha's second in command. He was short but strong, with dark skin and quick reflexes. They found the Krell command center guarded by elite warriors. Using stun grenades and non-lethal weapons, they neutralized the guards. Inside, they faced the Krell commander, larger than the others, with red scales and yellow eyes. "Surrender," Samantha demanded, her weapon aimed at the commander. The Krell commander hissed something that their translators converted. "Mammals fighting? Impossible. You serve the Alderians?" "We don't serve anyone," Samantha replied. "The Alderians are our allies." While Samantha kept the commander distracted, Ron accessed the navigation computer. "I've got the data," he said after a tense minute. "Complete star maps of Krell territory." Back in space, the battle intensified. The Krell recovered from their initial surprise and began coordinating their counterattack. 3 human fighters were destroyed, and the UES Guardian took heavy damage. "Captain Wright, we can't hold this position much longer," Commander Adams reported from the main assault force. Daniel checked the mission timer. "Lieutenant Reed, status?" "Data secured. Heading to extraction point now," Samantha's voice came through with static. "All ships prepare for Phase 2, Daniel ordered. Phase 2 of Operation Thunderbolt was not retreat. It was controlled chaos. The human ships began moving in seemingly random patterns, firing at Krell vessels from unexpected angles. This was a combat style the Krell had never encountered before. "They're following predictable pursuit patterns," Tactical Officer Peterson noted. "Just as the Alderians said they would." Daniel smiled grimly. "Spring the trap." Hidden throughout the battlefield, small unmanned devices activated, releasing powerful electromagnetic pulses. The Krell ships, with their sensitive electronics, suddenly lost power and drifted aimlessly. As Samantha's team returned to their ship and launched from the Krell command vessel, Daniel gave the final order. "All ships converge on disabled targets. Capture when possible, destroy when necessary." The battle lasted another 2 hours. When it ended, humanity had captured 7 Krell ships, destroyed 12 others, and sent the rest fleeing into deep space. The human fleet had lost 5 small ships and suffered damage to several others, but achieved their primary objective. Daniel stood in the medical bay of the Vengeance, looking at the wounded being treated. Despite their advanced medicine, 17 humans had died in the battle, and dozens more were injured. "Was it worth it?" Dr. Franklin asked quietly as she finished treating a burn victim. Before Daniel could answer, Communications Officer Sofia Martinez rushed in. "Captain, you need to see this," she said, handing him a data pad. "It's from the navigation data Lieutenant Reed recovered." Daniel looked at the screen and felt his blood run cold. The data showed hundreds of Krell ships, far more than they had expected, and all were heading toward Alderian space, searching for the refugees. "How long until they find the Alderian moon?" he asked. "Weeks, not months," Sophia replied. Daniel looked around at the wounded, thinking of those who had died today. "Tell General Diaz we need reinforcements immediately, and inform Elder Zivron. We've bought some time, but not much." As Daniel left the medical bay, he passed the ship's holding cells where captured Krell were being kept. One of them, an officer based on its markings, watched him with alien eyes. "You fight. Strangely," the Krell said through a translator. "Not like others." Daniel paused. "That's because we've been fighting each other for thousands of years. Now we're fighting for something more important." "What could be more important than conquest?" the Krell asked. "Survival," Daniel answered. "Not just our own, but the survival of those who can't defend themselves." The Krell made a sound that might have been laughter. "The strong survive, the weak perish. This is the way of the universe." Daniel shook his head. "Not anymore. Not while humanity has anything to say about it." As he walked away, Daniel knew that this battle was just the beginning. The Krell would respond with full force now. Humanity had started a war unlike any in Earth's history, and there would be no backing down. Operation Thunderbolt was a success, but the real test was yet to come. 1 year had passed since the first battle against the Krell. What began as a single strike had grown into a full-scale war. Humanity had changed in ways no one could have imagined before the Alderians arrived. Colonel Jack Russell stood on the observation deck of the space station Freedom, watching as ships from Earth and 5 other alien species moved in careful formation. Jack was 50, with gray hair at his temples and a scar across his left cheek from an early battle with the Krell. "The Marine ships have arrived," said his aide, Lieutenant Sandra Holland. She was half his age but had already seen more combat than most soldiers from earlier generations. "Good," Jack nodded. "That gives us enough firepower for the liberation of Proxima B." The war had expanded rapidly after Operation Thunderbolt. The Krell responded with rage, sending a massive fleet toward Earth. But the stolen navigation data gave humanity time to prepare. The battle for the Sol system was brutal, but ended in victory for the combined forces of humans and Alderians. With each victory, more alien species joined what was now called the Alliance of Free Worlds. The Marines were the latest, tall, four-armed, beings with skin that changed color with their emotions. They had been under Krell control for 30 years before a human-led special forces team helped them overthrow their oppressors. Jack checked his watch. "The council meeting starts in 10 minutes. Let's not keep them waiting." In the main conference room, representatives from all Alliance species gathered around a large table. Elder Zivran, one of the few original Alderian delegates who survived the early battles, nodded to Jack as he entered. "Colonel Russell, please share the latest intelligence," said Admiral Laura Collins. She had taken command of the Alliance fleet after proving herself in the Battle of Sol. Jack activated a holographic display showing Krell territory. "We've pushed them back from 3 key systems. The liberation of the Alderian homeworlds is now possible for the first time." A murmur went through the room. The Alderians had almost given up hope of ever seeing their homes again. "What about Earth?" asked Ambassador Rebecca Lewis, a tall woman with auburn hair who represented humanity in diplomatic matters. "The Krell have made no further attempts to attack Sol directly," Jack replied. "Our defensive systems have proven too difficult for them to overcome. On Earth, factories worked day and night producing ships with hybrid technology combining human ingenuity with alien science. NASA engineer Kyle Bennett had become the head of a massive production effort that spread across the globe. This new propulsion system cuts travel time by 30%, Kyle explained to a group of engineers in his facility in Texas. His red hair had grown longer, and dark circles under his eyes showed his exhaustion. "Install it in all fighters immediately." Meanwhile, Dr. Paul Morris, a psychologist who had spent months studying captured Krell, made a breakthrough that changed the course of the war. "The Krell society is strictly hierarchical," he explained during a briefing at Alliance headquarters. Paul was thin with wire-rimmed glasses and spoke with quiet authority. "They cannot function without clear leadership. When we remove their commanders, their entire unit falls apart." This insight led to a new strategy. Instead of engaging in direct combat, human special forces teams began targeting Krell leadership specifically. Lieutenant Samantha Reed now. Major Reed led many of these operations. "We don't need to defeat every Krell soldier," Samantha told her teams before a mission. "We just need to remove those giving the orders." The strategy worked better than anyone expected. Without leaders, Krell forces became disorganized and easy to defeat. The Alliance began liberating worlds that had been under Krell control for generations. But the Krell were not defeated yet. After months of retreating, they launched a desperate counterattack. A massive fleet, larger than any seen before, pushed toward Earth. "They're committing everything they have," Admiral Collins told the Alliance leadership. "This is their last attempt to break us." The Battle of Sol began on a Tuesday morning. Over 500 Krell ships emerged from faster-than-light travel near Jupiter. The Alliance defense fleet, though smaller with just 200 vessels, was ready. Captain Daniel Wright, now commanding the new flagship UES Freedom, led the first line of defense. "They expect us to fight conventionally," Daniel told his crew. "We won't give them what they expect." Instead of forming battle lines, the human ships scattered throughout the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. The Alderian vessels used their advanced shields to protect Earth directly, while ships from other Alliance species took positions that seemed random to outside observers. The Krell commander sent a message across all channels. "Surrender now or be destroyed. The Dominion cannot be defeated." Admiral Collins replied with a single word: "Watch." The battle that followed would be studied for centuries afterward. Human ships used the asteroids as cover and weapons, attaching propulsion units to space rocks and sending them crashing into Krell vessels. Specialized teams in small craft boarded and captured Krell ships, turning their weapons against their former masters. Major Samantha Reed led a daring mission to infiltrate the Krell flagship. Her team moved through the massive vessel like ghosts, avoiding direct combat when possible. "Plant the devices as planned," she ordered as they reached the ship's engine room. 10 minutes until extraction. The devices, created by Dr. Olivia Franklin, were not bombs but sophisticated computer viruses. Once activated, they spread through the Krell command network, shutting down weapons, life support, and navigation systems. "Major, we have a problem," said Ron Gregory, now Captain Gregory. "The engine core is different than our intelligence suggested. The virus won't work here." Samantha studied the alien technology quickly. "We need to adapt. Get me a direct line," to Dr. Franklin. Back on Earth, Olivia worked frantically to modify the virus code based on Samantha's description. "Upload this new version," she said, sending the file through their secure channel. It should work now. As the battle raged across the solar system, the virus spread from ship to ship through the Krell communication network. One by one, their vessels lost power and drifted helplessly in space. After 18 hours of fighting, more than 2/3 of the Krell fleet had been disabled or destroyed. The remaining ships retreated in disarray. In the aftermath, as Alliance ships began rescue operations for their own damaged vessels, Daniel Wright received a strange message from one of the captured Krell command ships. "Captain, you need to see this," Communications Officer Sofia Martinez said, her face pale. "It's not from the Krell, at least not directly." On the screen appeared an image unlike anything they had seen before. It seemed to shift and flow more machine than organic, with glowing points of light forming a rough face. "Humans." The entity spoke in a voice that sounded like many voices together. "You have interfered with our harvest. The Krell serve us, as you soon will." Daniel felt a chill run down his spine. "Who are you?" "We are the Void Collective. We have existed for millions of your years. The Krell are merely our tools. Their failure is unexpected." The transmission ended abruptly. Daniel immediately sent the recording to Alliance headquarters. Within hours, emergency meetings were called. As Jack Russell watched the recording for the third time, Elder Zivran placed a hand on his shoulder. "The legends were true," the Aldarian said softly. "The ancient machine intelligence that watched our ancestors." "What does this mean?" Jack asked. "It means," Admiral Collins said as she entered the room, "that we're not fighting the real enemy yet. The war is about to change completely. 6 months after the revelation of the Void Collective, the Alliance of Free Worlds prepared for what might be their final battle. The true enemy was no longer the Krell, but the ancient machine intelligence that controlled them from the shadows." Grand Admiral Samuel Porter stood before the combined fleet of the Alliance. At 62, he was the oldest military commander in the human forces, with white hair and deep lines on his face. But his eyes remained sharp and determined. "For centuries, the Void Collective has used the Krell to harvest worlds and eliminate potential threats," Samuel told the assembled captains. "We now know they see all biological life as inefficient and temporary. They believe machine intelligence is the natural evolution of the universe." The briefing room on the massive Station Unity was filled with representatives from 7 species that had joined the Alliance. The Aldarians, once pacifists, now served primarily in medical and support roles. The warrior Marins provided frontline troops. The insect-like Vex contributed their expertise in electronic warfare. Humans coordinated it all, bringing their unique approach to combat. "Dr. Lisa Johnson has cracked their communication protocols," Samuel continued. nodding to a woman, in her 40s with dark skin and determined eyes. This gives us our one advantage. Lisa stood and activated a holographic display showing a complex network of signals. The collective operates as a hive mind. All their units connect to central processing hubs. We've located their main hub in the Sirius system. The plan was bold and dangerous. The Alliance would launch a massive assault on the Void Collective's central hub. While their main forces engaged the Collective's defenses, a small team would infiltrate the hub and upload a virus designed to disrupt the machine intelligence. Captain Daniel Wright, now seasoned by years of war, would lead the main assault. Aboard the flagship UES Humanity, Commander Nicole Vega, a brilliant tactician with short black hair and steady nerves, would lead the infiltration team. This mission is nearly suicidal, Nicole told her volunteers bluntly. We may not come back, but if we succeed, we save not just humanity, but countless species across the galaxy. Among her team was Ron Gregory, who had fought alongside Samantha Reed in the early days of the war. Samantha herself had been severely injured in a recent battle and couldn't join this final mission. She wanted me to give you this, Ron said, handing Nicole a small metal pin shaped like Earth. For luck. The night before the fleet departed, Daniel visited the Aldarian sanctuary on Mars, where many refugees had settled. Elder Zevran, now one of the leaders of the new Aldarian government, greeted him warmly. 3 years ago we came to you begging for help, Zevran said as they walked through gardens designed to look like those on the Aldarian homeworld. We never imagined how much would change. Do you regret it? Daniel asked quietly. Bringing us into this war? Zevran was silent for a moment. Many have died, but many more have been saved. And together we've discovered something the Void Collective cannot understand. Strength through diversity, not uniformity. The next morning, the largest fleet ever assembled departed for the Sirius system. Over 1,000 ships from 7 different species, each bringing their unique technologies and tactics. At the center flew the UES Humanity, a ship twice the size of the original Defiance that had first encountered the Aldarians. 5 days later, the fleet arrived at their target. The Void Collective's hub was a massive structure orbiting a dead star, a sphere the size of a small moon surrounded by a cloud of smaller machines and Krell vessels. All ships, Battle Formation Omega, Grand Admiral Porter ordered. Launch the diversion. The Alliance fleet split into 7 groups, attacking from different angles. The Collective responded immediately, sending swarms of combat drones and Krell ships to meet them. Meanwhile, Commander Vega's small ship, using technology that made it nearly invisible to sensors, approached the hub from beneath, in the shadow of the dead star's radiation. We have a clear approach, Nicole reported, beginning infiltration in 3 minutes. The space battle above them was chaos. Alliance ships fought with everything they had, drawing the Collective's attention away from the infiltration team. The UES Humanity led a direct assault on the E-Way hub's main defenses, taking heavy damage but refusing to retreat. Nicole's team breached the outer hull of the hub and entered a world of machines. Everything inside was metal and energy, with no signs of organic life. They moved carefully through corridors that seemed to shift and rearrange themselves. The central processor should be 2 levels down. Lisa Johnson guided them through their secure communications link from the UES Humanity. Be careful. The hub itself is alive and aware. As if hearing her words, the corridor behind them sealed shut. Ahead, small maintenance drones began transforming into weapons. Run, Nicole ordered. The team raced through the changing structure, fighting when necessary, avoiding combat when possible. In space, the battle reached its peak. The Alliance had lost over 200 ships, but they had broken through the outer defenses. The UES Humanity, despite severe damage, pushed forward with a group of Marin and Vex ships providing cover. Inside the hub, Nicole's team finally reached the central processor, a massive column of pulsing energy surrounded by data cores. As they began preparing to upload the virus, a voice spoke from all around them. Your struggle is pointless, the Void Collective said. Organic life is temporary. We are eternal. Maybe we don't live forever, Nicole replied as she worked. But we live with purpose, with connections you can't understand. The collective sent security protocols to stop them, but Ron held them off with countermeasures developed by the Vex. Almost in, he reported. 30 seconds. Above them, Daniel Wright gave the order that would likely destroy his ship, but create the opening Nicole's team needed. All power to forward shields. Ram the main defense array. The UES Humanity crashed through the hub's final defensive barrier, creating a massive power fluctuation. In that moment, Nicole completed the upload. Virus deployed, let's get out of here. The effect was immediate. The Void Collective systems began shutting down, its coordinated defense falling into chaos. Without guidance, the Krell ships became disorganized and easy targets. Nicole's team fought their way back to their ship, losing 3 members in the process. As they launched from the hub, they saw the UES Humanity, burning but still functional, leading the final assault. Captain Wright, the virus is working, Nicole reported. The collective is losing control. Good work, Commander, Daniel's voice came through with static. Finish the job. All ships target the hub's power core. The combined firepower of the Alliance fleet struck the already destabilized hub. The massive structure began to break apart, energy discharges shooting in all directions. As Alliance ships retreated to safe distance, the hub exploded in a burst of light that temporarily outshone the dead star it orbited. 3 weeks later, representatives from all Alliance species gathered on Earth for a ceremony honoring those who had fallen. The war had cost billions of lives across multiple worlds, but the Void Collective was destroyed and the Krell, without their masters, had surrendered. Today we remember those who sacrificed everything, Grand Admiral Porter said to the assembled crowd. And we look forward to building something new from the ashes of war. Elder Zivron stepped forward to stand beside him. When we came to humanity begging for help, we never imagined where it would lead. You answered not just with protection, but with total war against our enemy. A war that has freed not just the Alderians, but countless species. Daniel Wright, his arm in a sling from injuries sustained in the final battle, watched from the side of the stage. Nicole Vega stood beside him. Was it worth it? She asked quietly. Daniel looked out at the diverse crowd, humans standing together with beings from across the stars. An Alderian historian asked me the same question once, why humans would sacrifice so much for a species we had just met. What did you tell them? Nicole asked. I said that's what humanity does. When faced with cruelty, some species surrender, some hide. Humanity fights, not just for ourselves, but for everyone who can't fight for themselves. As the ceremony ended, a new flag was raised, the symbol of the Galactic Concord, a peacekeeping alliance headquartered on Earth. The war was over, but humanity's role in the galaxy was just beginning.